Venice, city on the water. A place of beauty and romance that attracts millions of visitors every year. Just a few steps from the well-trodden tourist routes, there's a very different Venice, one populated by fascinating creatures. This film explores a Venice that few people ever see, a city that has a surprising double life. There are secret places and wild creatures in this watery world that most outsiders never discover. In the skies above, on the beaches, and in the canals are the true Venetians that live in every hidden corner of the city and the lagoon. Wild Venice is their home. The city of Venice is built on sand, in a lagoon between the sea and the land. First formed from river sediments, man has since created an ecosystem as fragile as Murano glass. Covering 550 square kilometers, it's one of the largest wetlands in the Mediterranean. Flamingos arrived at these Venetian waters quite recently. They crisscross the Mediterranean from North Africa to France's Camargue, to Sardinia, Tuscany, and now Venice. They feed on vegetable matter and small creatures they find in the mud of the lagoon. In the shadow of Venice, the lagoon is the northernmost flamingo habitat in Europe. They're here now, but in a few weeks, many will move off again to find richer pickings. Their takeoff may look clumsy, but once in the air, their flight is balletic and elegant. And before too long, they'll return to the safety of this lagoon, tucked between the sea, the city, and the Alps. The distant peaks helped form the lagoon. The mountain streams washed their rocky sediment towards the sea to make this habitat. Some of the lagoon's other birds are ready to leave. Dunlin, small waders, fed well in the rich mud. They rest on the wooden piles that support the whole of Venice. It's spring, time to head off to their northern breeding grounds. But the cormorants won't be lonely this summer. As the Dunlin fly away, other birds are flocking in. A bird's eye view reveals the full beauty of the lagoon. A labyrinth of uninhabited islands, intertwined canals, and swampy sandbanks. These marshy wetlands are known as the Barene. To survive here, plants need to like salt water and flooding. Natural arteries called gabi meander through the brackish gardens, keeping the lagoon alive. The same waters flow through the city. The curving streams between the islands became the magical canals of Venice. This is the city of bridges. Visitors are mesmerized by the romance of the canals and the ancient architecture, and often miss the smaller, wilder sights around them. These mussels are true Venetian natives. And now, in spring, they're breeding. The males spawn into the water, and each female produces up to 10 million eggs. Most of the larvae are eaten by other inhabitants of the canals, but up to 10,000 young shellfish will survive. Just beyond the city, colonies of birds are breeding too. But a hazard of urban nesting is constant disturbance. Little terns will quickly fly back to their eggs and can miraculously find their own nest scrapes in the crowded colony. Their cousins, the sandwich terns, lay their eggs directly onto the sand. If the terns are disturbed, they have little time for incubating their eggs. The sand won't keep them warm for long. And left out in the open, they could be an easy target for predators. Foxes are the biggest predators hereabouts. But from the air, he's easy to spot. The birds make it known he's not welcome anywhere near their nests. Foxes would rather not get their feet wet. Hunting in these swampy areas is a frustrating business. The grand leap disturbed another nesting bird. Now it's a question of following the scent. A welcome snack. Just beyond the sand dunes is the busy colony. In this mixed neighborhood, a pied avocet is brooding next to the sandwich terns. With nests so closely packed, there can be conflicting territorial claims with the common terns. But the avocet stands his ground. The Grand Canal is the main waterway of Venice, dividing the city in two. It follows the course of the ancient river Brenta that runs from the Alps all the way into the lagoon. It offers a journey through architectural history starting in the 13th century. The banks of the Grand Canal have other surprises to offer, like Palazzo Malipiero's Rose Garden. Nestled between the buildings is a hidden paradise. Now owned by a modern-day countess, it has been restored to its full glory, and no detail has been left to chance. With the luxury of space in a city whose every square centimeter is exploited for maximum profit, it's also a sanctuary for many small animals. Every day, more than 50,000 tourists visit Venice. When the sun begins to set, the city's waterways empty. Venice belongs to the wild Venetians. Rats prefer to search for food in the cool night air. But they're not alone. Pine martens are hungry too, and rats are on their menu. Pine martens are welcome in the city as they're natural rat catchers. Agile with a keen sense of smell, they can find and follow any rat. But they're endangered too. Since the rat population boomed, ironically, many martens have been killed by rat poison. The rat won the day, and the pine marten has to settle for dessert. Not such a sacrifice, as pine martens are omnivores. Both meat and veg are on their menu. And sometimes the vegetarian meal is an easier option. As the rat prepares to sleep, the city of Venice is beginning to wake up. The floating vegetable stalls are the first to move into action. Soon these silent waterways will become busy highways again. In the 18th century, over 8,000 gondolas navigated the Venice canals. Now, there are only about 400 left. Life in Venice may be moving with the times. But one thing never changes. It dictates the daily rhythms of the city and the lagoon.